Hi all, a very warm welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. The first of two coming your way this week. We've got another one tomorrow at 6:30. That will look ahead to the final day of the St Ledger meeting, starting with the St Ledger itself, and also to Irish Champions Weekend, Saturday in the main, with a little eye cast towards Sunday. But this podcast is all about days 2 and 3. So the first 2 days covered by ITV of the St Ledger Festival. We'll be looking at Doncaster Thursday and Friday. We've got 9 races for you. We'll have best bets each day as well. So plenty to get stuck into. Stellar team amassed for you. Adele Mulrennan back after a fine week last week. Adele, Emiratiana was a great shout. Well done. You put that up on ITV as well, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I was quite strong on him, to be honest. And you liked him as well, Tom, so you've got to take a bit of credit for him. But I actually spoke to Kevin Ryan, because he said to me he'd seen me tip him up on the morning show, and he was like, Adele, as soon as you tip one of mine, I'm full of confidence. And he said to me if he didn't win on Saturday, he was going to go and hit his head on the tree. So I was even more confident then once I've spoken to him. So
see, it works the other way for me, Sam. I don't know about you, but if a trainer finds out I tip their horse, normally they do go and hit their head against a tree. Normally Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we had a good week on the pod last week. Sam, how are you? All good? Nice to see you.
All good, yeah. I prefer to hug the trees, not headbutt them, Tom. You know me.
Yeah. Talking of tree huggers, Steve Jones. Not that you weren't in form on the pod. You were at the London Mile Series final winner. But if you don't put up the winner of the feature race at 21.0, you kind of don't get a mention. So
rightly so.
Lovely to have you back, though. Jonesy. Right, we're going to get stuck into the racing very shortly, but first things first, let me remind you of the ongoing offer. That is the Bet 10, Get 15 matchbook offer. New customers, you bet £10, you get 15 coming back your way. To do that, or to take advantage of that, you must use the bonus code INSIGHT15. INSIGHT15 is the bonus code for that. Capitalise as well for the Bet 10, Get 15 offer. Don't forget to, off the back of this or during, whenever you're listening to it, if you're not doing so live, go to insights.matchbook.com. There'll be a recap of all the bets for both of the days that'll be up there on insights.matchbook.com, all the best bets as well. And if you are liking our content, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. And please do subscribe. And if you're listening on the podcast, then do review on whatever your preferred podcast app is. Right, let's get stuck into the previews. So first things first, we're just going to go in a race card order. So we're going to kick off with the first of in fact, it's not the first, it's the second of the ITV races. I got rid of the first one. I thought 10 races in total was just too much for us, even us. So this is it's not easy. There's a lot of horses to get stuck into for the first of the races we're going to be having a look at. It's the big field 2-year-old race. And bear in mind when we're recording this, if you are looking at the prices on screen or listening to what I'm about to read out to you, we're doing this the day before. So they will fill up these markets. But at the moment, it is very tight between Ever Given and Harrow. And in fact, Harrow's gone favourite. So Harrow 4.6, Ever Given 4.7. Both looked impressive on their respective recent starts. Jazz covers 6.6. System is 7.6. Symphony Perfect is 11.5. I'm a Gambler 12.5. Home City and Spitting Feathers are both 15.5. And then we really do get stuck into the bigger prices. So we'll start towards the top of the market. And Sam Turner, you like Ever Given. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it's far from an original selection, Tom, but I just like the way that he knuckled down at York. He was one of the first sort of off the bridle, but just kept finding. And just looking at the form of the race as well, the second and third, the three of them pulled nicely clear. Second and third have both run well. Subsequently, the second, I think, in a listed contest. The third ran really well in the Group 3 at the weekend. So it looks very, very solid form. He's got good experience of handling these big field sales races as well. Obviously, he went over to Ireland. Pretty durable horse as well, by the look of it. Took that Irish race really well. That was run at a good gallop, and just looks the type of horse that is going to again give his running here. There's a little bit of pace over on the far side as well, which will help. Probably be a bit more stand side to help Harrow, which is a bit of a concern, but fingers crossed he'll get away with it over there, and that York race didn't take too much out of him. But yeah, I just like him. He looks a professional 2-year-old, and be looking for another big pot here for connections. I think he can go close.
I just want to touch on the draw, and I'll do so with everyone. But on the straight course here, do you have any hard and fast rules, or do you look at where the pace is?
I think it'd be very difficult. I mean, obviously, looking at day one might give us a couple of clues. I don't have any hard and fast rules yet, and obviously there's between 5 and 10 millimeters of rain which could fall as well in the next day or two as well, which could shake it up a little bit. But I mean, traditionally, I've never been too concerned about being towards the stand side. Obviously the high numbers, etc. So, tipping something in 3 is going against the grain a little bit, but it's very hard to be dogmatic about it when we haven't even seen a race from the track this week. So I prefer to just see if there's a fair bit of pace over there. I think he's got something over there that's going to lead him. Herbert's Rain certainly went from the front last time when he won. I'd be disappointed if perhaps Jazz Club in the blinkers wasn't lit up first time and he went over a good gallop. So Ever Given for me.
I'll just jump in there because it sort of ties in with what you're saying. I thought the most likely winner was Ever Given. I'm a huge fan of Harrow's, but I had a slight concern really about him dropping back half a furlong in trip because he won over the 7.5 at Foss last. That would just be a slight niggle. For all there is plenty of pace on, he might well have it run to suit. So I thought at the top of the market I wanted to have Ever Given on side, and then I thought, well, I want to try and be clever and find something at a bigger price that came out of the Ever Given race, and that was Symphony Perfect, who I thought looked as though probably wanted more of a test than the Flying 6 at York. She obviously ran really well in the super sprint when keeping on for second. The slight concern is that she's drawn 1, a bit like you were saying, Sam. To be honest, I'd just rather you weren't drawn bang on a wing, and if you are on a wing, it probably wouldn't be far side. But there you go, that can't be helped. It's all right. Someone agrees. She agrees. Yeah, that's always a good sign. So I think the draw's not ideal, but the price I think is worth taking about Symphony Perfect because of I think she would have finished closer had she challenged over towards the far side where Ever Given came last time. And I think the extra half a furlong will suit. It's a speculative effort. So there you go, win and place for me. Adele next. Who do you like and why?
Can I just touch on the draw very quickly because
Please.
Doncaster have been moving the stalls between the centre and far side, and then tomorrow they're in the centre, but then on Friday they're actually the stand side. So it just you might want to take into consideration over the next 2 days they're actually going to be moving the stalls. Just thought I'd note on it very quickly while we've been mentioning it. As far as this race goes, though, when the stalls are in the centre, I find you get horses will win from high and low draws. It just is dependent, I suppose, mainly on pace. Usually in these sales races, we kind of usually wait on the day and see if there's any money for anything. But usually in this race, they can win up. I think Paul won this race at 100 to 1 one year. So usually we've only had one favourite in the last 10 runnings. So I've gone against a favourite and just looked for one that I thought maybe it's still got a little bit more progression in him, and that's Jazz Club. Ever Given and Harrow, I kind of feel like we're finding their level now, and rightly so, they should be at the top of the market. Just always will be fearful of something that we kind of maybe still got a little bit more to give. He's by Star Spangled Banner, who sometimes they kind of take a little bit of time to really find their feet. He's been quite green on a few of his runs this year. He's third to Wings of War. He was still quite green that day. I like that horse, Wings of War. And then he got off the mark at Windsor last time out and won quite impressively. He's got the blinkers on for the first time, and I think it's because he is still a little bit wandering around and he's still quite green. It's a big race with a lot of runners, and you want him to concentrate. So I'm just going to go for a horse that I think's got a little bit more to give, and I think Jazz Club has.
Jazz Club for you. For Roger Varian with Ryan Moore on board, comes out of stall number 7, and the biggest price of the lot, Steve Jones. Is this is win and place shout? I take it.
Yeah, it is. This race for me is very tricky, and I hope it gets easier. Well, it does, thankfully. But I'm going for Claim the Stars. Interestingly, on the draw, you always want to be, for me, where the pace is. I thought most of the pace was high, and most of the horses I fancied were low. So it was a bit of a tricky one to work out, this race. So I've come down on Claim the Stars, who hasn't won yet, but has been very unlucky. Ran really well first time up at Ayr, when third, and then bombed out in a really hot race at York. But I often think Mark Johnson horses at York can do that for some reason. I don't know why. And the second at York was particularly good effort. The next time, and then last time another step forward in a handicap. Now the official rating leaves Claim the Stars with a lot to do, but Ernest Valentine, who Claim the Stars was second to last time, went and followed up. So I think this is a horse that's well handicapped, and it's interesting that Mark Johnson's stuck him in this sales race. And the other thing is, I think this is a sprinter, Claim the Stars, undoubtedly. And even though this is 6 furlongs, 111 yards, if you look at the past winners, most of them have gone on to be sprinters. Horses like King's Lynn, Mr. Lupton, they were probably the best two of recent years. So I think it does favour horses that have got a bit of speed. I think it favours horses that come with a late run. I'm hoping that's what will happen to Claim the Stars. So it's very small win and place.
Claim the Stars, 25.0, win and place small for Jonesy on Claim the Stars. Right, that's the easy one done. On we go to the May Hill, which is the next to the ITV races on Thursday at Doncaster. Obviously, you've got a short price favourite in the form of Inspiral, who is 1.4. Speak is 8.0. Prosperous Voyage is 8.6. Kawida 19.0, Rolling the Dice 21.0, 42 Banshee and Renaissance 55. We won't spend too long on this, I guess, for obvious reasons. We'll sum up sort of thoughts on Inspiral first of all. Steve, straight back to you. You wouldn't back Inspiral, but can you see her beat?
No, I'm massively impressed by this horse. I thought she was really good first time out, and then she was straight into a race. It's a listed race at Sandown. And I often think that that's quite hard to do. One run and then into a listed or group race is not easy, but she was devastating. And the thing I liked about Inspiral, she didn't travel the best at Sandown, but she certainly finished the best, and she was pulling right away. And Doncaster, in my mind, often favours horses that are held up off the pace. It's not easy to make the running and win at Doncaster. And the way that Inspiral finished last time, beating Wild Beauty, a horse of Godolphin's, who went on and finished second to Majestic Glory at Newmarket in the Sweet Solero. So the form stacks up, and quite simply, Inspiral blew Wild Beauty away at Sandown. I think this is a top-class filly, Inspiral, and for that reason, I think she'll win, but she is a very short price.
Adele, what do you want to add to that?
Not much really. She's bred for it's a mile on Thursday. She's bred for actually even further than that. The further she goes, the better she looks. So the step up in trip will be a big positive for her. I can't see her getting beat, to be honest with you, but she's a bit too short for me to back. But she looks like as good as you're going to get for a certainty, I suppose, on Thursday.
I certainly wouldn't be against her, but I would want to take advantage of the without market. There will be one tomorrow, and I'd be having a bet on Prosperous Voyage personally in the without market. I just thought she should probably be clear second favourite. I know Speak looked really good when winning on debut at Kempton, but I sort of prefer what Prosperous Voyage has done. I know we've seen a lot of her, but she is completely unexposed at a mile. She's tackling it for the first time, and she should definitely appreciate it based upon what we've seen so far. I thought she ran really well at Chester from off it, and so too at Goodwood as well, when she had to wait a little bit and then kept on. So I think a mile will see her to really good effect. She's got track experience, for she didn't win on debut, and I was just a little surprised with Rafe Beckett's 2-year-olds going really well that she wasn't second favourite. So I'll be backing her small in the without the favourite market. Sam Turner.
Yes, apologies for the over ebullient spaniel. I'd sort of echo what everybody says about Inspire, really. She looks a real class act, and you'd think that the stretch out to a mile is really going to suit her ideally. The only thing we don't know about her really is whether she will handle easy ground if that does materialise. So, at 3 on or 2 to 5 or 1.4, whatever we suggest she might be. I'm happy to swerve her and take a bit of a chance with a filly that I do know will handle any cut in the ground. That's Kawida, who looks a big price to me at sort of 26.0 or in the without markets. We obviously know Kirsten Rousing has a pretty good record at this meeting. She's enjoyed a fair bit of success, usually through Sir Mark Prescott. In these sort of staying contests for juveniles, and also the staying contest for older horses as well. So I'm fairly optimistic that she might run a race. I quite like the angle that she's stretching out to a mile. She coped with the soft ground really well at Haydock. all the best work was in the last 150 yards that day. And, I think there's more to come from her. I think her, in her family is Zaki, a mile and a quarter winner, obviously a very useful mile and a quarter winner, and, other staying horses in the pedigree as well. So fingers crossed she'll run a big race. And while perhaps one or two of the other horses towards the front end of the market are trying to bustle up Inspire, or she might pick up some pieces under a tactically sound Holly Doyle ride at a big price, 21.0, something like that, or in the without the favourite market.
Yeah, 21.0 and have a look in the without market as well. I get the feeling from what you're saying, if a lot of rain arrived, you'd probably be more likely to have a go at her against Inspiral in the outright market, just because that's where the value would be. Is that fair?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't let her go on back at those sort of prices. With the potential to go a little bit bigger as well. I mean, I like the fact she's had 3 runs as well. She's got plenty of experience. She's quite battle hardened. She showed a good temperament, a good attitude to go and win a Haydock, albeit a modest race. The second one since as well to give the boost to the form. And Ed Walker continues to churn out winners. He was a bit unfortunate at Haydock at the weekend not to land the big race, but he's had any number of winners elsewhere in the smaller races subsequently. So I'm quite happy with her at a decent price.
And just to tie you down, would it have to be soft ground, or if it was just good ground, would that be all right?
Probably have a little go at her in the without market on good ground, I think.
Okay.
I'd be happy with that.
Lovely job. Currently good firm at the moment, with plenty of showers possible, although we're not certain because it's that sort of thundery weather that's knocking around. We kick on to the 3:15. This is the Park Hill Stakes. Just to confuse everyone at Donny, you have the Mayhill, you have the Park Hill, and you have the Park Stakes. So there you go. Free Wind is 3.5. Yes is 6.5. Silence Please 7.2. Saver Forest is 7.4. Tribal Craft is 9.8. And slightly bigger prices. There's 12.0 for Golden Pass, 13. Urban Artist Eileen Dover 16, and Glen Artney is 23.0. I'm being pathetic and sitting this one out. I was most tempted by the favourite, but I think it's really trappy and tricky. But I know that keen enough on the favourite. Steve, first of all, Free Wind.
Yeah, very progressive filly of John Gosden and Thady Gosden's, who I think will appreciate going up in distance. I don't think she's done a lot wrong. I know she was beaten 2 starts ago by Golden Pass, but Golden Pass that day got the run of the race out in front, and that was over 1.5 miles. And Newmarket July course often suits front runners, and Doncaster doesn't. It suits horses coming from off the pace a little bit more patiently. And Free Wind was particularly good last time in France. And that form really stacks up because Free Wind won a Group 3 at Deauville, beating a horse called Bougarita, who'd previously been slightly unlucky not to win the French Oaks. So that form looks very solid. Free Wind's progressive and going up in distance should suit. So although she is favourite, there's a reason why she's favourite, and I think she's very solid.
So she's tackling this trip for the first time. Adele, I was going to say you're against her. That might not necessarily be the case. You're out and out against her, but you prefer yes.
I do. I prefer in these kind of stamina-driven races to go for a horse that's already been proven at the trip, rather than taking a punt on something that you kind of think is gonna stay. So that's why I've gone for yes. She's quite a big, lengthy filly, and Chester probably wouldn't have suited her that well, but she still showed a really good attitude where it was needed. She raced four wide at one point. Didn't suit her all that well, but she still got the job done, and she's still progressing very nicely. That was over the extended 1 mile and 6 furlongs that day, so 1 mile and 6.5 furlongs. So she's well suited by the trip. The second that day, Dancing King, has gone on and won since in a Group 3, so the form's not too bad from it. So again, I'm just mainly going on against the favourite. I like to go for horses in these kind of races that stamina is before, and go for something that's already proven at the trip. I was having a good look through the form of past winners to see whether most of the winners had already been proven at the trip, and I think one of them out of the last 7 hadn't. So I'm going to stick with the fact that I think you want to be looking for a horse that's already will stay.
That was my slight niggle about Free Wind. I know that I mean, Jonesy, she should definitely stay, I know, based upon what we've seen. But then at Newmarket, that run where she was just second, it just left a little bit of doubt in my mind. That was my slight concern. No worries for you about her staying?
Well, I didn't think that it was fair to judge her on that run at Newmarket, because Golden Pass showed a really good attitude that day out in front. And like I say, it's not particularly easy to come from further back when someone's getting a freebie out in front at Newmarket on the July course. And last time she stays very, very well over a mile and a half. And although the pedigree on the dam side would make you worry a little bit, it's the Galileo. They tend to stay really well, don't they? We've seen that, and they tend to be high class. We've seen that, so it's no secret. I'm confident she will stay, and I'm confident she'll win as well.
How confident, Sam Turner, would you be about Free Wind?
Fairly, yeah. There is a little bit of a question mark, isn't there, over the trip? But as Steve says, Galileo out of Sadler's Wells, Urban Sea. I mean, you know, it's not quite copper bottom, but it's pretty close to. There are one or two in here that are also stretching into the unknown as well, so we can't be certain about them. I like the fact that she's got Doncaster form. I certainly think, you know, that's a huge positive when we come into this meeting. I like that course form at Doncaster. You know, a little bit like York, a little bit like Ascot. I think sometimes horses that go well there, you know, really do come into their own when they return to the place. So I like that. I like the way that she's progressive. She's won in a tactical race. She's won in, you know, strongly run races. She represents a team that definitely target this meeting with a number of horses. As we can see, they've got strong representation all week. So I think there's tons of positives for a chance, really. She's not the bet of the week at 9-4, 2-1, 3.2, you know, or 3.0. You know, she's a little bit on the tight side, but I think she's a progressive filly going forward, and be disappointed if she doesn't go very close.
So a couple of shouts, confident enough shouts for Free Wind. Adele with yes, and I'm being a chicken and sitting on the fence. Not so in the next race, though, where everyone else's guns are aimed right at me. Although I did enjoy reading the select, so everyone puts their little tips up, puts their tips up. And there are 3 shouts here for Mutawajed, but only one individual actually spelt Mutawajed correctly. Stephen Joe, look at him, he knows. He double checked. He went with the O. Good stuff.
You know why that was, Tom?
Why is that?
I was lazy. I copy and pasted Adele's.
Oh God, don't follow me on spelling.
That is
right in it there.
That is Pete throwing Adele under the bus, Sam Turner. I like that. Very good. Yeah, straight in. Good stuff. I do that as well. So Modern News is 2.3. Mutawajed is 3.65. Run to Freedom 7.6. Jiao Kecha. I don't know how to say that. I feel like you got to say the C as a chirp, but I don't know. 12.5 anyway. Was it obvious I didn't know how to say that? Seven Brothers 11.5 and Tasra 15.5, Devil Waller 18.5. So, Steve, you have the right. You've earned the right to go first with the Mutawajed case. Take it away.
Well, first of all, I didn't think there was all that much between Modern News and Motto. I can spell it, but I can't say it. Mutawajed. And I was surprised that they were so far apart in the betting, especially as Modern News appears to have had a few problems. Wasn't seen after July last year after 3 runs. It looked a promising horse, but then came back on the last day of this July this year and won at Newmarket. Hasn't been seen again since. So I would be a little bit worried about that profile. I know that Modern News has had a break since the last run, so your the bounce factor, as they call it, it might not be as prevalent, but I'm just a bit worried about that. And I think what Mutawajed is a lot more solid, and I think that the way he's been running this season is been very impressive. And last time, especially, Sam mentioned the course form for Doncaster. I totally agree with that. And Mutawajed won last time over course and distance and looked really good. And again, overcame a bit of trouble in running because Mutawajed was coming from off the pace. Another thing that I like at Doncaster, and I thought was value for a fair bit further than the official winning distance. I thought he was well on top at the line, and he's only been nudged up a couple of pounds. So I think a very progressive horse who's clearly well handicapped, who likes the track, I think should be a lot closer to Modern News in the betting. And really, I think Mutawaja should be favourite personally.
And a few agree with you. Sam, first of all, what do you want to add to Steve's thoughts? I've just had Guya Checker from our producer, Legal DC.
Yeah,
he'd know, because if you spell your
yeah.
name Michael and you have to pronounce it Mihal, you should know every pronunciation.
It's the Cork. That's the Cork pronunciation. So don't take it as read.
That's right. Yeah.
You'll be working for Sky News next. Yeah, Modern News. I understand Steve's reservations about his profile. He did dip out once on easy ground as a 2-year-old as well. So that's just something to bear in mind if you are going to play at short prices and the rains do arrive. His ability to act on a soft surface is as yet unconfirmed. I just like Mutawaja. He just looks a bit of a professional to me. The Doncaster performance last time, beating Dance Fever, he ran well in the Goodwood Handicap, won by the stablemate Erastus, who's progressing quite nicely and was only beaten a couple of lengths. I think Documenting ran well out of the race as well at Ascot over the weekend. So there's been a couple of positives to emerge from that Doncaster event. Stall 1's not going to make life particularly easy. Going to be stuck on the wing a little bit, but hopefully Jim Crowley can get some cover. And like Steve says, I think they will be a bit closer together once the market sort of readjusts. I noticed when they first opened up the markets for this race yesterday, there was a bit more disparity between the two, and they're starting to sort of come together a little bit. So I just think he's a little bit of value. I'm not convinced about the rest of the runners in the field. I could see a Taser running a little bit better this time back at Doncaster. Looked a good 2-year-old, but we're still unconfirmed whether he's really gone forward as a 3-year-old. So he might be one for a 5 at 21.0, depending on what price he is. But Mutawaja for me a fairly solid selection.
Adele, what would you like to add?
There was a few unhappy faces at first when he got beat at odds-on Mutawaja, I can tell you that now. But that was over a mile that day, and he got a little bit of a bump, and he was a bit keen. He then went to Lingfield, he dropped down in trip, and he made all, didn't see a rival. And then I thought he showed what I think was a nice bit of versatility when he dropped back in at Doncaster last time out. I thought there would be a lot closer in the betting, but when I seen what price Modern News was, I thought, no, I can't have him at that price. I mean, we're all kind of hoping he's got over his problems, which by the looks of it, he has. But at the prices, I think I'm going to stick with Mutawaja. And as Sam's already said, having course and distance form there at Doncaster coming into the St Ledger meeting, I think it's a big plus. So I think I'll stick him on side.
And I do think it's between the two, but I've gone for Modern News, and I automatically feel silly. But I thought the front two pulled well clear last time in a very good time, and I thought he was very impressive off the back of a big old absence. And I'd take the view that rather than him bouncing, he's just going to kick on. I just find it easier based upon his 2-year-old form, particularly in beating Noble Dynasty first up, who went and won it again at the weekend. I think he could easily be a lot better than 96. And I know Mutawaja is progressive, but he's getting a pound from him, Modern News. So I would rather be with him. But I definitely, it's not exactly a value selection, not just because he's favourite, but I take the point that there's a bit between them at the market. They're both on the up, but I'd feel safer with Modern News, to be honest. But it wouldn't be a massive bet, but Modern News for me, and the rest of the team are going with Mutawaja. So there we are. Right, best bets time. Adele, who's your best bet for Thursday? Can be anyone.
I'm going to go with yes. It just would be worth noting that she has been pulled out on good to firm ground. So unless there is a bit of rain for her, I presume she won't run. She wants just good ground. But I think she's massively overpriced. So I think she's a good shout. She's even big enough you could even play her at the place market as well. It's a place and win on her.
Yes for you. And Steve Jones.
Mutawaja, for reasons I've just mentioned. I think this is a progressive, well-handicapped horse who's overpriced.
Mutawaja for you. Sam Turner, your best bet?
I'm not bonkers on the Doncaster races for a best bet, so I'm going to go to the other TV race, which is the Jump Jockeys Derby at Epsom and Edinburgh Castle at 2:55 Epsom. Tom Scudamore on board. He does pretty well in these races where the jump jockeys race on the flat, and he's on a horse that acts around the track, coached with a bit of cut on the ground, and should really appreciate the likelihood of a strong gallop set by Bihari, last year's winner. So I'll go win and place Edinburgh Castle.
Round about 6.0, Sam, for that. So win and place Edinburgh Castle. And I thought I was going to be all the clever one looking elsewhere because, like you, I'm not that keen on the Donny card for a best bet. But Epsom, the following race at 3.25, I'll go win and place Dolphin Vista at around about 6.5, who was incredibly unlucky 2 starts ago, should have won, had a little bit of time off, which I believe was very much part of the plan, and then he just didn't get a pace to aim at and was beaten by a horse that was far too good last time, but I'm not sure there's a horse like that in there this time, and there is bundles of pace on which he wants. So Dolphin Vista, be very disappointed if he's not in the first 3 anyway, win and place at 6.5 for me. That's in the following race to Sam's. On we go then with the Friday action. So first of all, we've got the Flying Scotsman. We've got the Flying Scotsman, then the Flying Childers. Get some prices for you for the Flying Scotsman. Field of 10 going forward for this, and Noble Truth is 4.5. Huyamal is 5.5, 7.0 for Razzle Dazzle. Ribby is 7.0, 8.0 for Eldrick Jones, and I'll give you the prices of those that are bigger if we get down to them. I'll come straight back to you, Adele. Who do you like and why?
I'm going to go for Razzle Dazzle. Holds some very fancy entries, so he would need to be taking this really if he's going to be looking to assign himself in anything better. But he was quite impressive, I think, last time out. He was very strong at the line. He's second on his debut. That wasn't bad form. Haffett was the winner, who has since been second, I think, in the listed race. The third has since won as well. So his form's not too bad, even though he got beat on debut. He was quite green, but he looked much better. He'd come on for that. So I presume there's a little bit more to come. And as I said, if he's going to handle the entries he's been given, he wants to be taking this really.
Razzle Dazzle at 7.0 for you. Win and place, Adele?
Yeah, win and place. What price did you say he was? He's
7.0.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Razzle Dazzle, win and place. Steve Jones?
Yeah, I'm winning place as well on Find, who I'm puzzled why Find is such a big price. Now, this horse has got some really good novice form behind the likes of New Science and Reach for the Moon on debut, Lucille, who's probably the best 2-year-old of the season so far. And then 2 starts ago at Newbury, behind Bayside Boy, who I think is another decent horse, when Find reared in the stalls before they opened. So that was a bit of an excuse that day because he was 1-3. But I think last time won by a nothing race by 6 lengths and comes in here with the form to win it. And at around 13.0, we can go win in place. So I'd be very hopeful of a big run.
13.0 for Fine. Sam Turner?
Yeah, I get where Steve's coming from there. The fact that John Gosden's happy to eschew a handicap mark of 91 and drop him into a race of this nature would suggest that, you know, they think they've got a real chance of improving him past 100 in time. So I get that, and I think he's a bit overpriced. Find. I like the fact he's had plenty of experience, and obviously the Gosden factor on Town Moor as well. I'm going to do something I don't normally do, and that's just bet a novice winner at Salisbury, up in grade and up in class in Ribby. I was just really taken with that debut. The speed figure was good. The fact that he seemed to be going nowhere between the 2 and the 1 and then just absolutely took off and won very comfortably suggests that this 7th furlong is really going to find some further improvement for him as well. And I don't think he'll mind a little bit of dig in the ground either. Just he looks a really chunky individual who probably hits the ground quite hard. So I think there's a bit more to come from Ribby. I'll be very disappointed if he doesn't go very well here in this contest. He's drawn in 4. You know, whether that's good or bad, I wouldn't know. But, you know, Noble Truth is stuck on the wing in 1 a little bit, so that might be a disadvantage to him. So I'm happy to take a chance with Ribby at 7.0 or bigger.
I completely agree with you, Sam. It wouldn't be a massive bet. Mainly, I wanted to take on Noble Truth, who I just think is... I mean, I was disappointed with all the market leaders at York in the Aiken, but I think he is a tricky horse. And I think whenever he's favourite, you know, particularly in, I know this is listed company, but I'd want to be against anyway. And I thought Ribby was really impressive. And I've got no stats to back it up, but I feel like when a Marcus Dragonic 2-year-old wins at 20-1, I know he wasn't smashed, but I'm not too worried about that. When they win first up, and particularly in the style he did, I think he could be quite smart. So I would be win and place on Ribby with Sam. On we go to the Flying Childers. This is the 210. Another sprint. This is over the 5. And more 2-year-olds here. So 3.1 is Armour. Corazon is 6.0. Katura is 6.5. Adagirl is 8.0. 12.0 for Chipotle. And then we'll into the bigger prices. And I'll come to those if we get there. So Adele, first of all, take it away.
Adagirl. She's not badly priced either, so you can play her at the win. You can play her at the place and win market. I really like her. I'm surprised. I think she could end up quite a bit short, on the day, because she's not got some bad form to her name. She's been holding her own in listed races. She was headed at Newbury, but she was ridden a lot more forward that day. And then she won at York when ridden a little bit more patiently. I said the stalls are actually on the stand side, so probably draw 1 isn't ideal, but I think if you're going to drop in, then that's not too bad. You can you'll get away with your draw if you're out on the wing, if you want to just drop in. I like her. She's a strong traveller. She's won over 5 and 6 furlongs. If they do go hard up front, I think she'll have enough stamina to pick them up. I think she'll just take a lead. I think Danny will keep it nice and simple, and I think, like I said, I actually think she'll shorten up.
Okay, so 8.0. Take the price now and win and place. I take it.
Yeah.
And Sam, you don't disagree.
I don't. It's just that point that Adele made earlier on in the podcast is a really salient one here, because she's stuck in 1. And if the stalls are on the stand side, as we're led to believe, then that's going to render her a little bit on the wing. And unless there's a pronounced draw bias down the middle or towards the far side, she might be disadvantaged. So, watch how the races pan out the first couple of days and then act accordingly, really. I would still have something on her at that price, because I think Danny Tullope is a good enough rider to sort of overcome that bias if there's a major one. And I really liked her attitude at York as well. It got tight for her at one point, but she showed the gumption and the necessary grit and determination to get through that gap and length it away and win quite well. So I think Doncaster will suit her well. I'm just a bit worried that Armour, who's quite a good quality horse in his own right, is stuck in 10 with Ryan Moore on board, nicely positioned, going to get a good toe into the race, and might be just 2, 3, 4 lengths better positioned than Attagirl. So I'll probably back the 2. Armour would be my main bet, and then I would have a saver on Attagirl as well.
And that leads us succinctly into Steve Jones's selection,
which is very boring because it's Armour, but I just think Armour's the best horse in the race. I think last time at Deauville, the race didn't pan out for him, but he still ran very well, and that was a Group 1. That was the pre-Mornies. So behind the likes of Perfect Power and Asymmetric, so it's good form, and it really didn't pan out. He was right out away from where the main action was on ground that was probably a bit too soft over 6 furlongs. I think dropping back in distance or whatever the ground won't be a problem, but it just stretched him last time. I think dropping back to 5 will help, and I just think he's the best horse. He's got the form to win it. That previous win at Goodwood in the Molecombe Stakes was very good, and he just looked a top prospect that day, and I'm willing to stick with him, albeit at a fairly short price.
I quite fancy him here. Obvious, where he is in the market, but and I'm sort of even more encouraged by the point which I hadn't noticed, Adele, as you say, that the stalls are stand side for the Friday, so that's no bad thing at all, because it'd be near enough hard up against that rail. Likes to race prominently. I mean, he was so comfortably on top at Goodwood in the Molecombe, and that was on soft ground. So if the rain does materialise, no problem. He's won on quick as well. I think it's all there. Ryan Moore back on board, who is 2 from 2 on him. I think he's best bet of the day material. Armour at 3.1 for me. Anything to add to that? Kick on from the Flying Childers. Right, on we go to the next. This is the Doncaster Cup. 2-2 for this, and Stradivarius, good old Strad, is 1.91. Trushan 5.0. Rodrigo Diaz is 8.5. Naif Road 17.0. Alerta Roja is 23.0. 29 for the Grand Vizier Eagles by day 34. Anyone desperate to take on Strad and then couldn't find anything to take on Stradivarius with? Let's see. Adele, I'm going to come back to you because you've gone for Stradivarius, but I wondered whether you were how confident you are.
I am confident. Confident. I think at York, I think his experience won him the race. I actually love watching the finish to that race because when you see him in Spanish Mission, Stradivarius' ears are absolutely flat back, like he's trying for his life. He's listening to every single thing Frankie Dettori is saying to him. And I'm not saying Spanish Mission is at all ungenuine, but his ears were just a little bit more pricked. He was kind of having a little look at the crowd, and Stradivarius, he was just so tough. It's always a little bit of a worry though when any horse gets that close, I suppose, in a finish to Stradivarius. You start thinking, oh, does he have that kind of that ability he had back in the day? But the actual race itself at York was actually probably ridden more to suit Spanish Mission than it was Stradivarius. Frankie wasn't all that confident in his position where he was in the race. He was looking through his in between his knees. He wasn't sure whether to be a little bit more forward on the pace. He's better, I think, when he's got a few more horses in front of him. He likes to be kind of locked up with racing on the heels of them. But you can't take anything away from him. He's such a tough horse. And Trushan, I presume, will want loads of rain, won't he? Which we don't really know if we're going to get it or not. That's the thing. So I'm going to always have Stradivarius on side, I think.
Steve, what would you like to add? And would you actually have a bet?
No, I was very strong on Stradivarius last time. I thought he was a bit too close for comfort, definitely.
You were worried. You were worried.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, and I didn't think it was the old Stradivarius. I know he showed the old attitude, but he didn't show the old brilliance. I think going up 2 furlongs in distance will certainly help Stradivarius. He's obviously got that Gold Cup form, so he stays very well. If it was torrential rain, Trushan would have to come into it, but he's got to give £2 to Stradivarius. If the race doesn't excite me particularly, I hope Stradivarius wins because he's been fantastic. But in the back of my mind, he might just be going slightly downhill.
I think that's fair to say. I think he's as good as he was. But yeah, I didn't find it easy to take him on necessarily, Sam.
I'm happy to take him on with Trushan. You'll be on a non-runner if the rains don't come. I think if you can get anywhere near the 5.0 or even slightly under, I think that's very fair value. He's had a light campaign, comes here off a nice break, whereas Stradivarius had to really work in the straight at York to get past Spanish Mission. Brilliant race. One of the races of the year, I think. Flat races of the year. I thought it was a tremendous duel between the two of them. But I think Trushan, if the rains come for him, it nullifies Stradivarius a little bit and brings his undoubted stamina and quality into play. Trushan, I think he's a very fair price. The handicapper will have you, the last 3 runs of Trushan are all in excess of what Stradivarius has achieved on ratings. The official ratings boys would suggest that. So, you're getting, nearly 4-1 or 5.0 about a horse that really has been doing better than the favourite has. So the prices have got to be wrong in that respect, especially if the rain comes. So you'll be on a non-runner if it doesn't. And I hope for Trushan's connections that they do actually get some rain, because it seems to have absolutely been a deluge the day after every time they wanted it, which is really, really unfortunate. But they've got a couple of days for it now just to bed in and hopefully arrive for them. And fingers crossed they do, because I think it'd be a terrific duel between the two.
Do you think they'll run if it's good ground?
Probably not. I don't know. I mean, yeah, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? That could be the concern if you do take a price at this early stage, that you're left with a voucher on good ground that probably doesn't play to his strengths that much. But I think they've been pretty patient with him, haven't they, this year? And they've been dogmatic that they're just going to wait for easy ground, and they'll also have, obviously, Champions Day in the back of their mind as well, I would think. So there are races that he could probably go to, even go over to France or whatever. There are races at the back end which he's going to be seen to great effect. And he's in good nick at the moment. they'll be keen to run at Doncaster, but I don't think it's the be all and end all because they've already shown their patience this year.
Well, that sort of helped me, if you like, because that I wanted to back Trusham, but my concern was if it eased a bit, but not enough for him, and he's got to give £2 away. But I take the point that they won't risk him because they don't need to. I was interested in Rodrigo Diaz, but I do think he wants quick ground, so I can't argue to back Trusham because it's going to rain and then go for Rodrigo Diaz. But I think that price is too big about Trusham, and I would have a small bet on him, and do so now, and with the hope that if he doesn't get his conditions, he doesn't run, because ultimately that's just too big about a Group 1 winner, I think, who has beaten Stradivarius before and who doesn't really have a huge amount to find at the weights. So 5.0 there, small bet for me. On we go to the last. Yeah, we've all gone there, haven't we? On we go to the 3:15, the Mallard Handicap. Sorry, penultimate. Love this contest. 13 we've got going forward, and it's nice and open. So Prince Alex is 7.0, Future Investment 9.0, HMS President 9.0, as is Savannah Star, a point bigger for Uber Cool, and then we get into the double figures. Steve, take it away.
Well, this is one of my favourite races because it is usually dominated by 3-year-olds, and there's usually hardly any that run in it, so you can narrow it down. And some would say you have to be quackers to back anything else in the Mallard Handicap, even though it's probably named after a train. I agree that. The problem
I was going to make that joke, Steve, but I ducked it.
Send him the bill, will you?
Hey. This is what they're really here for. Not the tips, it's the puns. Sorry, Steve.
The problem this year is there aren't any 3-year-olds. So it's sort of put a spanner in the works. But I am confident that I found the winner at a decent price. And it's named after this podcast, obviously. I'm not sure. Uber Cool is the horse I'm going for, and I think it's trained by Jane Chapel-Hyam, who I think is very good, and Uber Cool I think is a specialist. This distance does stay a bit further, but I think a mile in 6 is perfect. Came back from 2.5 years off the track to win it at Chester earlier in the season, so hasn't had a lot of racing in his career as a 7-year-old. Backed it up at Ascot, was given a nice break and came back at the Shergar Cup, when third behind Just Hubert, who has Frank the Form again, went in at Goodwood in the Glorious meeting, so that's good form. And then last time was a close fourth when not really in the right position for Chester at in a listed race behind Yes, who obviously runs in a better race. And that it's surprising that the handicapper didn't react to that a little bit, because Uber Cool was up the backside of some horses rated a stone nearly in front of him. So I think he's got a great chance back in the handicap. I'm really keen on him. I think he's way overpriced.
Uber Cool. 10.0 for Robert Tartan and Jane Chapel-Hyam. Uber Cool. Adele?
I was getting a bit worried. I thought, what a 3-year-old? I must have missed one. I'm going to go for Lucky Deal. And listen, I hope Joe Fanning has had his Weetabix, because he'll need them on Lucky Deal because he's so lazy sometimes. But I'm always fearful of any of Mark Johnson's once they start dropping down in the handicap mark. And he's £4 below his last win mark, and he's outrun his odds a couple of times on his last 2 occasions. So hopefully he can outrun his odds again. He's not your typical Mark Johnson horse who likes to get out on the front end and can be tough to pass. He's one of them horses where don't rip up your betting slip too soon, because he does look like he's never going to get there and he's off the bridle. But hopefully one of Mark Johnson's, like I said, coming down to a handy mark. I think he looks like he's about to get back to winning ways. So I'm going to stick with him at a massive price.
Yeah, he is, I think he's 17.0. 17.0 for Lucky Deal. I'm going to stick up Rhythmic Intent, who I backed last time, and I said he won't run if it's quick ground, and lo and behold, he lined up on good to firm ground. So there you go. He ran well, keeping on at York when 5th. He should have easier ground here, and he definitely wants to return to further. I suppose the slight concern is he didn't really settle at Goodwood over this trip, but he has before, so I'll give him a pass on that. and he should have more his ground. I thought 11.0 was very fair, to be honest, at track and everything to suit. He was second to onto victory in the November handicap at the back end of last year, and he's only £1 higher. So I thought he was a fair price, 11.0. Sam? Oh, Sam's done a freeze. He's done a freeze, look. We'll welcome Sam back in and get his thoughts on the Mallard when he rejoins us. Let's kick on to the last race we're going to be looking at, which is the 345, and this is the Cazoo handicap, 6.5 furlongs, Class 2 contest, absolute cracker this. We have got a 3-year-old right at the top of the market in the form of Asjard, who's 5.5, 7.5 for Desert Doctor, Abel Kane 8.0, Gale Force Maya 9.0. Oh, Gale Force Maya I thought was going to win at Ripon, when up with a pace in the race where you have to be up with a pace and make all. Steve Jones. Mitro's on fire 9.0, Ratea 11.0, and then we do get into the bigger prices. While Sam's back with us, go on, just quickly Mallard us. Who do you fancy, Sam, and why? Or is he with us? No, let's keep Cazoo. Let's keep Cazooing. So Adele, straight back at you with the Cazoo handicap.
You'll be pleased to know I spoke to Paul about Gale Force Mayor.
Oh, look out.
He said she's absolutely bouncing at home. She's obviously got the course form. She's won over 7 furlongs at Doncaster. He said she looks fantastic. So he thinks she could outrun her odds on Friday. So obviously give her a mention.
Did you ask why she didn't win when she was my best bet last time? Not that that's not a dig at Paul. I mean, she ran a cracker, but I got very excited.
He said she ran well. He didn't say why she didn't win. He just said she ran another good race. She's holding her own, isn't she, this season? So I think you could do a lot worse than have her on side. And Mitro's on fire. I think just probably bumped into one of Ed Bethel's last time out. Was that Haydock, who was having his stable debut? He'd actually been, I can't remember what the horse was called, but he'd been running in listed races for Richard Fahey. So I think he just probably bumped into one, and that probably stopped him having a hat trick. So I think this still could be a bit to come from him as well. Mitchen's on fire. So I've got the two of them. Surely between those two, I can have a first or a placed amongst them. I never usually have the two. I'm being greedy in this race.
Oh, look, it's open race, isn't it? So 9.0 Mitro's on fire, and same price about Gale Force Maya. So you want both of those on side. Yeah. Steve Jones.
I'm going for Ratea, who responded well to the hood last time going on. Was last season with Marcus Tregonning, was a Shadwell horse. Joined Julie Camacho, and it's taken a little bit to find his form. But after last time, I think there's plenty of scope to think that he's going forward again. Came with a lovely smooth run last time at Newmarket, which again, I prefer prominent ridden horses. I mean, when you consider the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th were ridden much more prominently in that race. So I thought that was a good effort from Ratea. And it's only been nudged up £5 for that win. If the hood is the reason for the improvement or the return to form, and it works again, then I think, yeah, he's got a great chance, especially I think the extra, this in-between distance, 6 furlongs, 111 yards, should suit Ratea. He's got form over 7 furlongs and has even won over a mile on the all-weather with Marcus Tregonning. So that's another positive. I think he's a well-handicapped horse in good form, so there's no reason why Ratea shouldn't win.
Ratea for you, and did I give the price of Ratea? Yeah, 11.0. I'm going to have a very speculative effort on Zip, just because I was very surprised that Zip was 17.0 as a previous course winner. 2 wins ago, one here on easy ground. So that's the angle that the ground is going to ease slightly. I know is a fair bit higher in the weights. That's because of a Newcastle win, and hasn't been running badly of late. And I actually think that has been shaping as though the 6.5 will be just what he wants. Billy Garrity's ridden before, and he is capable of this sort of mark. So it'd be win and place Zip, and again, I quite like the angle now that Adele's made me realise of the stalls being the stand sides. That adds to it, and this horse is coming out of 13. Plenty of pace on, but won't be too far away. I think that should suit Zip. Win and place, level stakes, each of them. Sam, the Cazoo handicap, first of all, who do you like in here?
Yeah, really boring selection, as Jad, just for the reasons that we've sort of outlined a little bit earlier on, really. He's got that little bit of experience at Doncaster, which I think is very handy. Cope with a bit of cut in the ground when winning that novice race. Last time at Fosslas, it was a bit of a mishmash of a race, but he got beaten by a fairly useful horse, Desert Doctor, who obviously reopposes here, right next door to him as well, drawn in stall 7. So I think I like both of their chances, if I'm honest. But as Jad looks the more solid of the two, given that he's got the Doncaster form, he copes with a bit of cut in the ground. There's still some upside to him as well. Yeah, that was a little bit of a blip, perhaps, that he was beaten at odds on last time, but I still think he merits a small bet here. And unfortunately, the bigger prices that were available early in the week have gone. He's probably about 5.5 now, 5.6, but I still think he's worthy of a bet.
Yeah, 5.5 for Asjard in the 6.5 furlong handicap. Right, best bets on Friday, and we'll start with you, Sam, because then you can come back to your Mallard selection as well. Who is your best bet?
Well, that's quite handy, isn't it? HMS President. Obviously, everybody's got some strong views here. I do like Rhythmic Intent. I think Newey St George as well has also got a bit of a squeak in this race. So it's a very competitive race, and we all seem to like the race. So it's hopefully one of us can nail the winner. But HMS President, I thought did really well from stall 14 at York, because I think the first two home were drawn 2 and 3. If you watch him turning in, he's a long way back that day, so he had to make up a lot of ground to even try and launch a bit of a challenge. I think going back to Doncaster, going back to some cut in the ground, hopefully if it does arrive. If not, then it's not a nightmare for him. I think the jockey booking is obviously a very useful one as well. I think there are a lot of positives for him. The fact that he's already handled the track. Stables horses seem in reasonable nick at the moment. And as I say, the jockey booking is an encouraging one. So I think anything around 9.0 or slightly bigger for him is very fair each way, win and place.
Sam's best bet, HMS President at 9.0, win and place in the Mallard. And from a fair price selection to one right at the top of the betting, mine is very boring, but that is Armour, who I think absolutely back over the minimum is the one to beat. Armour for me on Friday at Doncaster. Adele?
I'm going to go for At a Girl in the Flying Chills. I think you probably want to be getting on her soon enough, really, because if you get on her now, you probably can play it at both markets, win and place. I think if you leave it to on the day, you'll probably just be looking to play at the win market, but I'll be getting on quick with her.
Okay, At a Girl for you. Desperate taking on Adele Mulrennan. What am I doing? Brutal. And Steve Jones.
Uber cool.
You are.
Taking on Sam. Yeah, and like I said before, I think this trip is perfect. I think he's in good form, really good form, having finished 4th up the backside of some much higher rated horses in Lister rated Chester. And I think this will pan out lovely for him. So I think he's way overpriced, and for that reason, I'm going for Uber Cool in the Mallard handicap.
At 10.0. Good stuff. We are back tomorrow, everyone. That's going to be at 6:30, previewing Saturday in the main. So Leopardstown as far as Irish Champions Weekend goes, and the final day of Doncaster, St Leger Day as well. And that's where we'll start. And we'll also cast an eye forward towards Sunday as well, get some selections if anything grabs the guys' attention there. We'll have Michael Deasy, Declan Ricks, and we'll have Don McLean on as well. Adele, Sam, Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Apologies for the technological and dog issues.
Not at all. Dog issues are welcomed. One day she'll make a proper appearance.
Yes, we'll have her on next time, shall we?
Yeah, definitely. Get mine on too. We will see you tomorrow. Don't forget to go to insights.matchbook.com for confirmation of all the selection best bets there as well. Bye-bye.